Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quick Question Podcast. My name is Gabe Ryan, alongside my co-host, Mr. Matthew Shafty.
Hello, everybody. How we doing today?
We hope you are having a fantastic week so far. Welcome to episode 17. And today, before we start the show, we have a brand new addition to our team. Mr. Zeke Entia is our producer on the ones and twos.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you guys.
I don't know if you could hear him, but he appreciates your love and support. If we would have thought this through a little bit more, he would have a microphone, but that's on me. Matt, how was your weekend?
It was good. Just chill weekend. Michigan State lost twice. Two tough teams, but you know what? We'll bounce back.
How's your patience level?
It's actually fine right now.
Okay.
The Illinois game did get on my nerves a little bit. Malik Hall got hurt. The refs just weren't great. But Purdue, tough matchup. Number 3 in the country. It felt like we had him on the ropes, and then Zach Edey just was a bully. He was a bully.
We watched that game together. Just classic Big Ten matchup. Power on power. Not a very high-scoring game, but the stars came out. Tyson Walker played really well. Zach Edey made the game-winning shot.
Oh, yeah. I also have a fun little stat here. So A.J. Hogard was off for 4 minutes in the game. 4 minutes. And we were minus 15 when he was off. When he was on, we were plus 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
So we took him off. Why? I don't know. Foul trouble? Why? That's still a silly excuse, Tom.
I had a game in high school one time. I was plus 24 on the game.
Nice.
Pretty awesome. But with that being said, this weekend was loaded. The main event this past weekend was the NFL playoffs, the wildcard round. Some very exciting games, a few upsets, one crazy comeback. College basketball also had a pretty good slate. Kentucky had a season salvaging win over Tennessee on the road. Arizona got smoked by Oregon. Xavier's still climbing up the AP poll, now up to number 8 with their win over Marquette. So a lot going on in the college basketball world as well. We're going to dive into all of that, but we're going to start with the NFL playoffs. So Shafty, do you want to start with what game do you want to start with?
So I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence really badly. I've been anxious about talking about him since that game because to throw 4 interceptions, right? Let's just start out. Let's think what it's like in his head. 4 interceptions. You have the same amount of completions as you do interceptions. You're 4 for 13 with 4 picks. What's going through your head is
not a lot of good thoughts.
My gosh. He's been to 3 college football playoffs. He's won 1 national championship. He's never lost a game on a Saturday in his life. And here we are in the NFL playoffs. What are they down? 27-0?
Yeah.
And then they score at the end of the half. It was a good momentum setter. It was a good, just clear the headspace. It's great. I don't know. It's not often where you see an athlete or anyone. Think of like Michael Jordan, the greatest, right? The greatest of all time. Tom Brady, who's made some incredible comebacks in his career. Larry Bird, incredible players have this way of putting the noise of the crowd to the side, putting the voices to the side and playing extremely well. And Trevor Lawrence emulated that. He did that, which, again, only the greats can do that. 99% of athletes can't do that. But Trevor Lawrence, 4 picks, 4 completions, turns the game around. It's like, I don't know what he was doing. Was he meditating or something? Like something flipped. He flipped the switch. He had that dog in him. And Mr. Clutch, right? Defense stepped up, really did. They forced Los Angeles to drive down the field, which they were just gifting them points. They're like, hey, defense can get stops. They just have to play an entire football field. And that's what they did. Yeah. And they only allowed 3 points in the second half. And the Jags took advantage. It was honestly one of the greatest football games I've ever seen in my life.
It was a heck of a game. And to that point about Trevor Lawrence, I think the one thing that really stood out to me, when he throws those interceptions, some of these quarterbacks that you see, even Aaron Rodgers did this at times during the year, where they just throw complete temper tantrums. They lose their mind, which obviously you understand their frustration levels because either they made a mistake, someone else made a mistake. You understand where they're coming from. But Trevor Lawrence did it. It was just like, Oh man.
Yeah.
Which
No shade to the greatest of all time either, but Tom Brady
No.
too. You can see the body language of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady this year is horrible.
He
Every
didn't-
incompletion, pick, fourth down.
Trevor Lawrence didn't panic one time. And I think what he did, as well as what you said, some of the greats do, when they get in funks, when they get in situations where they're not playing well at all, they get back to the simple things. And I think Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars got back to, let's just complete a couple passes. Let's get down the field a little bit. Maybe we'll build some drives. Maybe we'll build some possessions to where they can turn into either field goals, touchdowns, because at that point, points were the most important thing. It didn't matter what form they were in. You just need points. And on the other side, Justin Herbert, this is where some question marks come out about Brandon Staley, about Justin Herbert. When you're up 27-0 in the playoffs, you got to keep going.
You got to close out.
You got to close it out. And there is no excuse for a team letting up the way that they did. And even their play calling wasn't as aggressive, which from their standpoint, you can understand maybe not wanting to put their players in positions to where they could get injured.
Oh, yeah.
Being up that much, but you still got to play football.
I mean, even putting the ball in harm's way, like throwing passes is difficult when you're up 27, right? But really, it shouldn't be because there's no pressure. You're up 27. You've picked the defense apart for the most part. Well, no. Well, they've given you points basically, but you've been able to score off those points.
In the
off
playoffs,
turnovers.
in the playoffs, there should be no mercy. And sometimes you see this even in basketball. You see this in other sports as well. Teams get these huge leads really early on, but because they're up so much, they get complacent. They lose the lead and they end up losing the game. Baseball is a great example of this. Like if you get up 8-9-0 in the first couple innings, some teams, the ones that aren't mature enough to get through those situations, they slowly let the other team start chipping away. And because there's a decent amount of time left in the game, they end up losing, which is just unfortunate to see. And Justin Herbert really hasn't been in those situations yet in his career. Brandon Staley, same thing. So you would think this is a great learning experience from the Chargers, but I think the more important story is Trevor Lawrence made one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history, in the NFL and football, period. And it was awesome to see.
It was a nice little callback to the Astros and Phillies where they made some big comebacks in the playoffs. But also credit Doug Peterson. Great job coaching. I mean, the play calling was awesome offensively. Little comeback routes, little hitches, slants. Like they had to no, that was the Ravens game where they ran the sluggo, but also cool route there.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in just a minute. But
yeah, and same thing with Doug Peterson. He knows what it takes to win Super Bowls. He did it with the Eagles. He's done it with other teams. The complete culture reset. I know culture is a word that's thrown out a lot in sport, and maybe it's overused in certain circumstances, and other people don't necessarily believe in the word, but there is something to be said about a belief in your teammates, a belief in the system that you're running, having faith no matter what is going on in the game. And because they have that mindset as a team collectively, not just one person, I think that sentiment is shared amongst the people of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were able to bounce back and not panic. I know this is just, I guess, close to home, but the Bengals, their culture the last couple years has been phenomenal. And previous years, if they get down by a lot of points, you can kiss it goodbye. Yeah. There's no shot they come back. There's no shot they do anything positive. They lose their mind. They get unsportsmanlike conduct calls. They just do stupid stuff. And the past couple of years, they've gotten down in some pretty big holes, and they don't panic. They keep chipping away, and they get back in the game. Sometimes win, sometimes don't, but they're always in it.
Yep.
And that's the big takeaway from the Jaguars win over the Chargers.
Yep.
Well,
good description of that game.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll match with any other games, but we can.
Do you want to talk about the
Let's
Seahawks-Niners game?
Let's do that.
So how'd you feel watching this game?
I felt like it was a tale of 3 quarters and then 1 quarter that was just an absolute blowout. The 49ers, to me, didn't really show their potential until that 4th quarter. It took them a while for some odd reason. The Seahawks defense was forcing stops. They only let up, 23 points to 3 quarters? Or 17? It was something like that. I think it was 23-17 heading into the 4th, and then the 49ers just blew it open. Like when you have Christian McCaffrey, when you have Deebo Samuel, when you have Brandon Ayuk, when you have George Kittle even, there's no reason. And a good O-line too. I mean, you could throw in Brock Purdy, right? He's on that offense right now.
He played well.
You know, You could throw in really any quarterback. Trey Lance could succeed right now.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo could easily succeed. And now you see Mr. Irrelevant turning into something relevant, right? Who knows what his future is? He could be in line for a QB2, maybe even a starting job next season. Because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be back.
Yeah, talk about taking advantage of an opportunity. And the way Kyle Shanahan's offense runs, it's structured around the run game. And essentially, all the quarterback has to do is just complete the passes because whatever routes he is designed, they will be open.
Yep.
And pretty much any quarterback that gets plugged in, unless you're like, I don't know, someone abysmal.
Go through your progressions and make the right throw. That's all you have to do in the NFL with
and
in that offense especially.
Yeah, and it just so happens that Brock Purdy's the beneficiary of it. He looked great on Sunday or Saturday. And I think that builds confidence with the 49ers going forward that they have a quarterback that's able to make plays because he made some incredible throws. Even there was one that he escaped trouble in the pocket, dashed outside towards the sideline, threw an absolute dot to the back right corner of the end zone, and Ayuk just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
It was a perfect throw. So seeing those things and proving that to your teammates is a huge confidence.
Yeah, I don't mean to disrespect Purdy at all.
No,
I mean, he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was QB3, but he's playing extremely well. Even with that offense that is so perfectly surrounded for Brock Purdy to succeed.
They're a fun team to watch.
Yeah, they're going to be great to watch. They're going to be awesome. They play, the Dallas Cowboys next round. People are complaining about the scheduling in that game. Yeah, it is what it is, really.
Who's complaining?
Cowboys fans, NFL fans.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can move to the Sunday games. The first game was the Bills against the Dolphins.
Can I quickly touch real quick on the Seahawks?
Go for it.
Great potential for the future. They made the playoffs when they really weren't supposed to do anything this year. They have a top 5 pick. Yes, they do. They have a top 5 pick and number 16, I think. Whatever. It's 2 picks around there. And, bright future for them. Really excited about them moving forward. We'll see what they do in free agency, what their opinion is on quarterback. I think they should try to move with Geno Smith, but for how long, right? How long can you squeeze success out of Geno?
Yep.
Which is, I mean, honestly, he hasn't, even though he's 32 years old, he hasn't played the game for that long. He's started, a couple seasons in the NFL, and he's been a backup. And he took a step back. I don't know. He didn't step out of the league, but teams didn't sign him, and then joined the Seahawks. And now, look where he is now.
He's still there.
He's playing great, and it's nice to see a team that was so questionable coming into this season, like the Seahawks, even my Lions, where it was just like, how is this team going to succeed? Where are they going to find offensive weapons other than obviously their top guys? Like you have DK Metcalf and Amon-Ra. Where else is the production going to come from? And it's great to see, especially 2 quarterbacks like Goff and Geno Smith, really step things up and show people that they are capable starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And those 2 teams, great potential. I was just kind of relating the Seahawks to another team, but I couldn't think of a more relevant team
than the Lions
right now.
Well,
okay.
Moving on to the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins game. This game took place in Orchard Park, New York. A lot of people before the weekend started completely wrote off the Dolphins, and I think there was a lot of validity to that. Tua Tagovailoa was not playing because of concussion protocol. Teddy Bridgewater was out, so it fell to Skylar Thompson.
Yep.
3rd-string quarterback.
K-State, man.
And the way the Bills have been playing the last few weeks and for most of the season, frankly, it seemed as though the Dolphins had 0 shot.
Yep.
But they took the lead in the 3rd quarter. It was kind of a back-and-forth game. They took the lead off a strip sack fumble off of Josh Allen near the end zone. They just picked it up and walked it in. And then the Bills made a great play down the stretch to take the lead back. The Dolphins had a chance with a couple minutes left, used all their timeouts, and weren't able to convert on a 4th and 6th. So they ended up losing, I think the score was 34-31 Bills. But I think the Dolphins gave them a fight. They caused some fits for the Buffalo Bills defense, which their defense has been playing really well throughout the year. So if you're a team like the Bengals, who is facing up against them, you have some injuries with the offensive line that are concerning for the Bengals. We'll get to that in a second. But if the Bills defense isn't performing at their highest level against a third string quarterback for the Dolphins, a little concerning for the Bills, but ultimately the playmaking of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, all the other weapons that they have on offense, it was, I think, an expected result. The Bills move on to the divisional round. Dolphins they had a good season as compared to the last few, but a little bit underwhelming,
especially the last half of the season.
Last half of the season,
when you're
was
8-3 and they finished 9-8.
Yeah,
I mean that struggles.
Injuries were a big factor. Play calling was suspect at times. The defense wasn't able to get stops when they needed to. So, if you're a Dolphins fan, I know it sucks in the moment, but there's a lot of things. There's things moving in a positive direction. The quarterback situation is interesting because if Tua can't stay healthy and he's going to be a quarterback that's going to be in and out all the time, especially with the injuries to his head, it's an interesting predicament for the Dolphins moving forward. Second game of the day was the New York Giants against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. The Giants, I predicted this last week, so I'll give myself some credit. Took care of business in Minnesota. They beat the big bad Vikings. Kirk Cousins didn't show up.
Big bad Vikings.
Kirk Cousins played well for most of the game, but when it came down to crunch time, wasn't able to make the throws and the plays.
So I have been a defender of Cousins. I've been that guy.
He's a Michigan State grad.
Well, not only that, but he played well in Washington. He's played well in his career in Minnesota, and this year he deserved a Pro Bowl spot, and he got that Pro Bowl spot. In that final drive, it started with me. I was sitting with two friends downstairs, and with 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go, it was 1st and 10. Cousins. I mean, you could have called intentional grounding on the defense for leaving Dalvin Cook that wide open. Check it down. He's going for like 15 yards. He didn't throw it to him. He decides to throw to the third level where Adam Thielen tries to make a diving catch and overthrows him by a couple yards. And it would have been a great throw if Thielen was there, but he wasn't. You've got to make the right read in that situation. So all of a sudden now it's 2nd and 10. You haven't hit the 2-minute warning yet. They make a little, I think it was a check down to Hawkinson or something dumb. Now it's 3rd and 8. Now you have the 2-minute warning. So now you have 3rd and 8 after the 2-minute warning. Defense gets a break, gets off the field for a little bit. Back out there, get a stop. 4th and 8, and then that's your game. That's your game. He throws it again, another little check down to Hawkinson and picks up 3 yards. It's like the Patrick Star thing from SpongeBob. It's a 3, take it or leave it, you know?
Well, it's, I guess, disappointing for the Vikings. They had a great year. The record was great, but my concern level going into the game for them is they either won a very tight game or they got absolutely obliterated. And the New York Giants are not necessarily the sexiest offense in the league. Daniel Jones isn't the greatest of quarterbacks, but he played phenomenal on Sunday.
He played really well.
Saquon Barkley was a beast. He made some incredible runs, had a couple touchdowns. Daniel Jones made some really good throws when it counted, and their defense stepped up.
Yeah, I'll give credit to Daniel Jones. In these last few weeks of football, he has played extremely well.
He might have earned himself a contract.
He might have. And I've been adamant this season about Daniel Jones is not the guy. Daniel Jones, blah, 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 blah. But now maybe Kirk Cousins is not the guy. I don't know. All right. Maybe we're jumping to superlatives here or conclusions. Yeah. But we just need to take a deep breath, take a step back, and hopefully the Lions win the NFC North next year and dethrone the Vikings. They're one little season on the top.
One little season. But Giants take care of business. Great for the city, great for the Giants fans up there in New York. They've endured some really tough seasons in recent memory. Obviously, when Eli Manning was there, they had a couple Super Bowl wins. But for the most part, it's been pretty rough to be a Giants or a Jets fan up in New York. Third game of the day was the Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. Bengals won 24-17. It was not pretty. Baltimore Ravens had every opportunity to win that game. Ultimately, what it came down to, it was tied 17-17. Tyler Huntley and the Ravens were at the 2-yard line, ready to score.
First down. He tries to jump. On first down,
It wasn't first down.
Was it not?
No.
Was it second?
It
It wasn't third or fourth.
So
It
Tyler-
shouldn't have. You're right.
Tyler Huntley broke off for like a 22-yard run to get down to the 2. Jesse Bates ran him down, pushed him out of bounds before he was able to extend over the plane. Cam Sample on the next play knocked down a pass attempt.
Oh, okay.
Out,
Yeah.
out, just stuck his hand up.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if he tipped it up straight to himself, that could have been the interception. And then the next play, Tyler Huntley tries to jump over the line from the 2, not the 1
What
or
is he,
the
like,
half.
5'11"? It's like
He's not very
Kyler Murray
tall.
trying to jump over a line of scrimmage.
So instead of doing what John Harbaugh called the Burrow tactic, where he just goes
Right.
underneath
Yeah.
the lineman, follows the guards in, or give it to J.K. Dobbins, which we'll get to that in a second. But
I think
He tries-
I think it was Gus Edwards in the game.
oh,
in that play.
well, still,
Same thing. It's
Yeah.
a physical running back.
yeah, exactly. But he tries to jump over the line 2 yards, which is a pretty long distance.
Yeah.
He jumps over the line, extends the ball free. Jermaine Pratt stands him up. Logan Wilson comes with 2 hands, knocks the ball out straight to Sam Hubbard, and the defensive lineman goes 98 yards for a touchdown that ended up being the game-winning touchdown. The Ravens had another drive at the end of the game. They were down to like the 20, 30-yard line, took a shot at the end zone on the last play of the game. The ball got tipped around, almost was caught in and out of the hands of one of their receivers. The ball dropped. Bengals survive. Again, not a pretty game. Burrow, I think his fewest yards in the start in his career. Only just had over 200. Chase made some big plays, but for the most part, their offense was pretty stagnant. Their defense didn't play great. The Ravens kind of kicked them in the mouth to start the game and kept that going. But ultimately, the Bengals move on to face the Bills.
I'm a little worried.
A little bit.
A little bit. They're a
Little
little
bit.
banged up right now.
A little bit worried.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later
And
in
Eli
the
Apple
how
didn't
deep
have
is your.
his best, most prominent game in the ever.
I'll explain that in the how deep is your love later on in the show.
Liability Apple.
I mean, taking that accounting class, he's definitely a liability. He might be an expense. Not great. Sorry, it was a bad joke. And then for the last wild card game of the weekend, Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys visited the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and smoked them. Tom Brady, the GOAT, might have been his last stand in football. The Cowboys just came out, dominated from the start. Dak Prescott completely took over the game. Brady and his offense did not look good at any point. Maher, the Dallas Cowboys kicker, missed 4 extra points, so
The yips.
he might have the yips, which, if you're a Cowboys fan, field goal kickers are important.
Let's really hope he doesn't.
Let's really hope he doesn't have the
Maybe
yips.
there was a little gust of wind just before the upright. That
Maybe.
kept blowing each kick the one direction. I don't know.
Either way, it wasn't a great. It was over very early on.
Yeah.
The Cowboys defense played incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons was the difference maker. Their secondary was great.
3 TFLs, 2 sacks.
Just unbelievable defensive effort from the Cowboys. Again, if that's the last game Tom Brady plays, heck of a career.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest of all time, 7 Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
Just an important ambassador for the game. Just an incredible competitor, an incredible leader. I don't know if it'll be his last game, but it very well could be.
I doubt it. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's
I
back
really
for
doubt
another
it.
year at least. But
We've
if
said
it
that
is- if
for
it-
like 3 years.
I
now.
know.
He's
If-
back for a year at least.
if it is his
At
last
least.
game, heck of a career, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to this game?
I mean, it was not really.
Okay.
I felt really bad for the home fans. I thought the Buccaneers could at least make things make things close. I predicted them to win. Not last episode, but I had to take some time to think about it, and I did end up picking the Buccaneers. But that That wasn't right. That wasn't right.
So, in ending this, I'll give you a little preview as to what is coming up this weekend for the divisional rounds. First on Saturday at 4:30, the Jaguars are on the road at the Chiefs.
Interesting game. Remember, T-Law has never lost on a Saturday.
Never
before.
lost on a Saturday.
I mean, if trends stay the way they stay, then the Jags will win. But I don't know.
I don't want to play
I
the
don't
Chiefs
know.
this time of year.
wouldn't pick
Saturday,
against
4:30 on NBC. You can also stream on Fubo TV if that is something you want to do.
Wait, did you say Fubu?
That's what it's called. What?
Fubo TV?
Fubu, whatever. You know what I mean. And then the next game on Saturday at 8:15, it's the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles, divisional matchup.
The Eagles have beat them. We'll just say beat them twice. Beat them very badly twice.
Yes.
It's tough to beat a team 3 times in an NFL season, though.
Especially if it's a division opponent.
Mhm.
But I said this when the Phillies were in the World Series in the playoffs. The last place on earth I would want to play a playoff game is Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
So
I agree.
I think the Giants have 0.0 chance of winning, but good luck to them.
I think the one unknown of where not to play a playoff game is Detroit because we don't have many playoff games.
I would disagree with that wholeheartedly. First game on Sunday, the Bengals travel to Buffalo to face the Bills at 3 p.m. on Sunday. That is on CBS, so Jim Nantz, Tony Romo call, which is awesome. You can also stream on Paramount Plus. The Bills are favored -4, over under 50 points.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be an entertaining game.
As it should.
As it should. Two of the best teams in the AFC matching up in the divisional round. They faced, obviously, in Week 16. That game was unable to be finished because of the Damar Hamlin situation. But still, it should be just an offensive shootout. That's kind of what I'm expecting. I don't think the defenses are going to be important in the game. They're going to make some turnover plays that change the course of the game. But honestly, I think it's going to be a shootout. So could be one of the more exciting games. You think of the Bills-Chiefs game last year in the divisional round. That was just unbelievable. I don't think many games in the history of the NFL will live up to that. But you never know. So that game is on the first game on Sunday, and then the second game is Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers, which is Sunday at 6:30.
I will never understand. I haven't done much research on why Cowboys fans are mad about the scheduling, but you're getting the latest game out of all the games you could have. Like, they are giving you an advantage here, right? I know one team's had 8 days and the others had 6 days. Yes, 1 + 1 = 2 and 2 + 2 = 4. Great math, right? Come on. Really? They're giving you an advantage here. They're trying to give you time. Would you rather play the game on Saturday at 4:30? Is that what you want? It would.
So in other
I wouldn't.
words, Cowboys fans,
Shut up.
shut the hell up.
We need the bleep
Well,
button for that.
Well, I mean, it's not that bad of a word.
Okay, yeah.
It's not the F-bomb.
I thought we were going to say
not-
shut up at the same time. That would have been cool. But
Shut up. You
It's
want to
okay.
try it? 3, 2,
2,
1.
1.
Shut up.
Yeah.
There we go. Man, we're so good at this. Well, that's the last matchup of the divisional rounds.
That was a
So
lot of NFL analysis
A lot of
right
NFL.
there. There's a lot of time that we just spent talking
we
about
did.
divisional
But you know
round.
what? That's the biggest thing going in sports right
It
now.
is true. That is
So-
absolutely true.
Switching topics entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move to the college basketball world. What did we say we're going to do for this? We're going to do, I don't know.
I think we're just going to bounce around, really.
Yeah. Wooden candidates. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I did want to mention some Wooden candidates. One in particular is that man from Alabama that we all know as Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, to
Jesus.
me,
He's
is
so
a top
good.
3 pick. Michigan State had to play him with their banged up lineup earlier in the season, and that was Malik Hall's matchup. But Malik Hall wasn't there to guard him, and he dropped like 22 on us. Like, dude's putting up double-doubles on a nightly basis in college basketball. He's putting up 20 and 8 right now, just about. He's so tough to stop. He's tough to guard. He can spread the floor both on offense and defense. He's so versatile. He's like a bigger version of Kevin Durant. It's in college, obviously, like a stronger version. But his game is so similar. He's a little shorter. Obviously, KD's like 6'11", and Brandon Miller's 6'9". But you'll take a 6'9" small forward, power forward any time of the week. I mean, freaking nature.
He's unbelievable.
I
watched him play this weekend they were playing LSU at home, which they were up like 59-22 at halftime. It was stupid.
It was a blowout.
But he was 7 for 11 from 3. He dropped like 30-something points. If they closed out on him on the 3, just pump fake one around him and either dunked it or just laid it up. It looked like the easiest game of all time.
Yep.
And he's really smooth with the ball, handles it great. But once he gets going from the perimeter, it's good night. Because he's tall enough to where he just shoots over people, even if they close out. So he kind of reminds me, at least athletically, maybe not the shot making necessarily, but he reminds me of like a Jabari Smith.
He does
from
remind
last year.
a little bit.
Lanky, long, freak athlete. He's not necessarily the finisher Jabari Smith was.
Yeah,
but he can stretch the floor. He can really cause some fits on the defensive end.
They're both great athletes. I would say Brandon Miller is a little more of an all-around athlete.
Yeah, I think he's
Smith.
more all-around. Jabari Smith was a little bit more focused on more athleticism than, I guess, skill.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Ish.
They're both freaks in nature.
Yeah, they're both really good.
Yeah, there's not enough I can say about Brandon Miller. To me, he is my favorite for the Wooden. There's so many players in college basketball that we can talk about, but to me, he's my favorite. You have obviously Zach Edey.
Yeah.
He killed us yesterday. He put up 32 and like 18 rebounds. There was nothing we could do against him. There was nothing we could do. I wanted us to foul him more so that we could send him to the line. On that last play, I really wanted Monty to like grab at the ball, at least try to tie it up or foul, like something, because he's making that shot. He had a 2-foot little hook with his right hand. I mean, he may not make it with his left, but his right, automatic. It's lights out.
Yeah.
And he got down there. Fletcher Lawyer made a great entry pass, and they ended up beating us because of that. That again, I'm very proud of the way we fought. And we get Rutgers this weekend. Or not this weekend, this week, another ranked opponent. I think that's an opponent we can beat. I do. So, yay.
Yay. Since being at Xavier, I haven't really paid a ton of attention to the Big Ten, at least as far as basketball is concerned. Obviously, if teams make it to the tournament, I know who's good, who's not. But I know from being here that a lot of Big Ten people absolutely hate Zach Edey. And he's not my favorite player to watch. And I understand your sentiments. And I think most of it comes from the fact that there is, in some circumstances, absolutely nothing you can do to stop him. And the last play of the game, Bill Rafferty was on the call with Jason Benetti. And Benetti asked the question, Raf, what do you do in that situation? And he goes, Jason, you can do absolutely nothing. Yeah. And I think that is the hardest thing for teams, fans to swallow, is the defenseless, hopeless nature of that. If Zach Edey gets to his left shoulder,
it's lights out.
It's lights out.
It's just done.
If you force him to go over his right shoulder, use his left hand,
got a chance.
Then you have a chance. But the entry pass from Fletcher Lawyer, part of his equation of being so good is the entry passes that they give him, because Fletcher Lawyer, some of those other guards on the team are really good at getting him into spots to where he can do damage like that. And last night was a perfect example. He's one of the best players in the country. You can't teach 7'4". Apparently he's still growing, which is concerning. So
it's pretty concerning.
I don't really know what you do, but I think if you just make him run, that could be one strategy. If you just try to get him out of the post, to be honest, I don't know. I don't get paid enough to know the answers to that question, and that is why I'm not a college basketball coach or an expert.
I think a name that we've all just forgotten to mention, even though he's still having one heck of a season, is Sheboy. Oscar Sheboy.
Yeah.
I get Kentucky, but they're 11-6. They just pulled off a big win. Good for them. Bounce back win, hopefully. I want to see them in the tournament. I really do. not personally want to play them, but like I would love to see them in the tournament against a good team and beat them because I do believe they can. But again, he's just a guy that we haven't mentioned that much. I mean, he's still putting up 13, 14 rebounds a game and still dropping 16 points. Like,
I think the reason people aren't talking about Shibwe as much this year as compared to last is the team success. Team success hasn't been there, but also this year in the games that I've watched Kentucky, Shibwe gets into these modes a lot of the times where if the ball goes into him, there is absolutely no chance it goes back out. And in most circumstances, great, because he's finishing at the rim, he's getting fouled, he's going to the line. His free throw shooting has been abysmal, to put it kindly. He's maybe shooting 60% from the line. He doesn't make a high percentage of his free throws. So honestly, if he gets the ball in there, teams just foul him, don't let him make the free throw, and then they take the gamble of him shooting the free throws. I think he's gotten better. I think there's been a little bit of a distrust between all of Kentucky. They don't move the ball necessarily great.
Nope.
And a lot of guys have struggled to knock down shots. So if you're Shibwe, I trust myself more than these other people to make shots, so I'm going to do whatever I can. Obviously, taking a lot of shots, he's going to score a lot of points. He's going to get a lot of rebounds. I don't think he's necessarily been as effective from a winning standpoint, but as Kentucky gets better collectively, I think Shibwe is only going to benefit.
I do believe
because he's a big
part.
He's one of the biggest parts of their team. Huge win in Rocky Top against Tennessee, though.
The next guy that I wanted to mention, even though he's not a wooden player,
Tyler Kolek.
Tyler Kolek.
I was going to mention him too
because my gosh, I like AJ Hogarth makes some great passes for Michigan State, and when you see someone in college basketball that makes exceptional passes, it's one of the most magical sights in the world. And Tyler Kolek is one of those guys. I mean, he's averaging 8 assists a game, and you saw him just craft Xavier apart. And even though Xavier won,
granted, Xavier's not the greatest defensive team of all time,
but even for a guy that's only putting in 10 points a game, he made us look silly.
He had 20 at halftime.
Yeah. He made Xavier look silly.
Can you remember like going back to when you played basketball when you were really little and the first time you played a lefty? It's like, what? This guy's cheating.
When you close out his right hand.
He's using the other hand. Like, he's not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And then nobody figures it out. That's honestly what Xavier looked like for the first half against Tyler Kolek. They just let him drive left. He'd extend his hand a little bit, throw a little flip shot off the glass.
That's what.
And he's good at selling. He's one of those guards that's really good at selling the foul. So if he gets any contact,
so is Lawyer.
Yeah, Lawyer's great at that as well. But Tyler Kolek, man, if Marquette's going to be a really good team down the stretch, they're going to finish really high in the Big East. They're going to make a run in the tournament. There's no doubt about that. Their offense is so beautiful to watch, and it all starts with Tyler Kolek. He passes the ball really well. Outside of Xavier, he hasn't had a lot of performances this year where he scored a lot of points. But if he's not scoring a lot of points, he's assisting on a ton. He had 15 assists and 0 turnovers against Georgetown a couple weeks ago, which even if you're playing against no one, you're going to probably turn the ball over because someone drops a pass, someone does something stupid. Like, it's insanely hard to go 15-0 turnover or assist to turnover ratio. But Kolek was phenomenal for Marquette on Sunday against Xavier. He's going to, as he keeps going, he's only going to be better for Marquette. Their success is dependent upon how well he plays and how well he facilitates. So I think if any teams are going to attack Marquette, they start with him. But he's just so crafty, such a good ball handler. And like you said, his vision is incredible. Yeah. Some of the skip passes that he was making, throwing it through tight windows, looking people off. They run a play where they run a stagger screen at the top of the key. So 2 big guys are setting them a screen. One rolls to the basket, one pops out on the perimeter. And he's so good at freezing the defense, looking off one guy, throwing it to the other, or even skipping it to across the court to somebody to knock down a 3. It is awesome to watch. So Marquette, only good things ahead for them. Xavier got a huge win against them, but Tyler Kolek was phenomenal. And Luckily, they only gave up 5 points to him in the second half. He definitely could have gone for 30, 40 if they didn't figure out the defense. But
Yep.
Tyler Kolek, that's a name I think everybody around the country should know because he's a phenomenal player. If you get a chance to watch him, do it because he's really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to talk about some Carlos Correa today?
I do.
Yeah.
So a few times in the last month or so, we've mentioned Major League free agency. It has slowed down a lot since November, December-ish, due in part to a lot of deals getting done closer to Christmas time. But there's one player that has not been signed until last week, which was Carlos Correa, who was a shortstop for the Houston Astros for a number of years, played with the Twins last year. And I explained on a previous episode basically what was going on with him. So he signed a $360 million 11-year contract with the Giants that fell through because of the physical. And then the Mets said, okay, we'll sign you for $320 million in 10 years. Something like that. It's close enough on the numbers. And they were concerned about the physical. And then nothing happened for like 3 weeks.
Am I
Nobody
wrong?
knew.
I heard it was the same doctor.
So the Giants and the Mets hired the same doctor to conduct the physical. So obviously, he's probably not going to change his opinion.
Yeah.
if he's seen the X-ray multiple times, like whatever tests or anything they do, he's probably not changing his opinion. So that's on the Mets. I think they should have known that. But also, if you're Correa or anything, like medical information and all that stuff is to be kept private. So understand the legality of all that stuff. But nothing happens for like 3-4 weeks or whatever. And then it comes out that some other teams are in hot talks with Carlos Correa. And before you know it, he signs a 6-year, $240 million contract. You look that up, fact check me.
Yeah.
With the Minnesota Twins, re-signs with them. They hired a different doctor, so they weren't as concerned with the injuries. So Carlos Correa is at least spending the next 6 years with the Twins, which is awesome for them, a mid-market team. AL
6-year,
Central.
$200 million contract.
All right, so 6 years, $200 million contract. Great for Carlos Correa.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you're a Boris client, so you think about the Bryce Harper deals, the Garrett Cole deals that are 10 plus years, $300+ million, which was ultimately the goal for Correa. But with the medical things that were a problem for him, weren't able to get that done. But still, $200 million for 6 years, that ain't bad.
No.
Not terrible.
Not at all.
And then in 6 years, he'll be 35 years old. So we'll see what teams decide to sign him after that, or if he's going to stay a Twin the rest of his career, which would be great for their organization, especially if they choose to play him at third base or shortstop. He played shortstop last year. The interesting thing is, though, for the Twins, they just traded for the Reds shortstop Kyle Farmer, because they were thinking that they weren't going to be able to sign Correa back because he was going to be outbid by a bigger team, which he was initially. And then the way the cards fell, they got him back. So I don't know what they're going to do with Kyle Farmer. Kind of feel bad for him because he's a Red and loved watching him play while he was here. But I do think bright days are ahead for the Twins. They play in a not so great division. The AL mid.
The AL mid.
AL mid.
Hopefully it's not as mid this year, but it's on pace to be just as mid this year.
Yeah.
It really is.
AL Central, NL Central, not great divisions. So Carlos Correa can do some damage over there. Hopefully inspire that team. He knows how to win playoff games. He knows how to win World Series. Hopefully without cheating scandals. But I think that's really all there is to be said about that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Big for the Twins.
So, do we want to get into how deep is your love today?
Let's do it. You talk.
Okay. So not much to talk about really, other than Michigan State. I did see Dan Campbell on Peyton's play, or not Peyton's, but Peyton and Eli their Monday
The
night
Manning
thing.
cast.
The Manning cast. It was really cool to see him again. It's like seeing a long lost friend. It was great to reminisce the memories, to remember.
It's been a
the
week.
moments. Anyway, let's go on to Michigan State. So, again, I mentioned earlier we suffered 2 tough losses. One at the hands of Illinois. We were at their place. It seemed like for the entirety of that game, most of it, even with the refs against us, we were in control. And this was until Malik Hall got hurt, and he's going to be out for a long while, which really tough, really, really tough. And we really could have used him in that Purdue game. Again, those are 2 games that with Malik Hall could have been a completely different story. But injuries will happen, and it's tough. And no one could guard Mayer in that game, and we had problems, especially just with Fletcher Lawyer, obviously with Zach Edey, and then there was who was the one kid who had 8 points against us? I can't remember, but he had some big shots. Hurst, yes, and
lefty.
Hurst would have been one of Malik Hall's covers, and it is what it is. We move. We play a ranked Rutgers coming up. We have Rutgers, Indiana, Iowa, and then we get to play Purdue again. So hopefully we can, win those 3 games, gain some momentum back, and then see where we are from an injury standpoint there. I know Malik won't be back until maybe the postseason, maybe even longer. He could be done for the entire season. His career as a Spartan, unfortunately, may be over unless he comes back for a 5th year, which obviously things can happen. You can take the COVID year. You can take, an injury. I'm not sure.
Red shirt.
But, but
bend the rules pretty much.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's the NCAA. You can twist them, bend them, and you find
Break
a way
'em.
back. Bend but
Why?
don't break, But I'm very excited for the way the season ends. Not 2 losses that I am extremely mad at all, really. Those are 2 really good teams, 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten. And again, when you lose this close to them, when it seems like you're going to win and you don't, it could go either way. That's a good sign for this team, especially in a road environment and number 3 in the nation. We're going to play Purdue again. Hopefully we get a chance with Illinois again, and we'll see what happens. I'm very excited about the rest of the season moving forward, though.
All right. I'm going to talk about, I mentioned the Bengals. I'm excited for their divisional matchup against the Bills. I think a lot of people were very concerned because their 3rd offensive lineman went down in Jonah Williams. It does not look like he is set to play. So Jackson Carman, Keem Adeniji, I forget the other guy's name, to be honest. But they're going to have 3 Max Shraping. They just picked him up off of waivers, or signed him off the practice squad. Their offensive line isn't as robust as it was in week 14, 15, starting with the Lyle Collins injury and then Alex Kappa, now Jonah Williams, which is concerning because they spent a ton of money in the offseason shoring up that for the offense. But in this game with the Bills, I think it's going to be an offensive shootout. If you give Burrow any time to throw the ball and stay in the pocket, I think he's going to absolutely dismantle the Buffalo Bills defense. I think watching the Monday night game, watching how easily he moved the ball down the field, the Buffalo Bills don't have any new personnel necessarily, and maybe their scheme changes. Maybe they put more pressure on the quarterback. They're not a team that necessarily blitzes a lot or puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback. If Skylar Thompson can have success against that defense, I feel pretty confident in Joe Burrow. Now, if this was the first time that the Bengals won a playoff game like last year, I'd be absolutely terrified because I wouldn't know what to expect in a road environment in the playoffs. But seeing them make the playoffs or make the Super Bowl last year after winning in Tennessee, who was as formidable as any team last year, and then they go to Kansas City and win, I think there is, obviously I'm nervous for the game, but I think there is a confidence that comes with knowing that you've been there before. And I trust the leadership. The defense has played really well. Obviously, they didn't play great against the Ravens, but they also run the triple option, which is just hard to cover in general. So I think the Bengals are going to have a very competitive game with the Buffalo Bills, and hopefully they come away with the win. If not, they've had a great year. A little disappointing just because of the injuries. It's been something that's bit them all year in certain spots, which is just unfortunate because it's one of the things that you can't control. But we'll see what happens on Sunday. Hopefully they have a great win and move on to face either the Chiefs or the Jags. The other team I want to talk about, Xavier. They're hot right now, all the way up to number 8 in the country in the latest AP poll. They are 15-3, started 7-0 so far in the Big East, which is their best start ever in the Big East. They've won 11 in a row now. They haven't lost since Thanksgiving. Their next game is against DePaul on Wednesday night. Then they play Georgetown at home. So legitimate chance if they can take care of business to start 9-0 in the Big East, which would be awesome. They're in sole possession of first place. Had 2 huge wins last week against a Creighton team that is on the cusp of being ranked. Very good team. They just had a rough season, as well as Marquette, who was ranked 25 last week. Second best offense and efficiency in the country. So we talked about Tyler Kolek earlier.
Yep.
Also Oso Ighodaro, Max Prosper, Cam Jones, just an elite offense. Their spacing is incredible. So huge win for Xavier at home. Took care of business against 2 really, really good teams. Obviously, they won against UConn a couple weeks ago. Xavier's rolling. Their offense is so fun to watch. If you didn't see the highlights of their games, as biased as I am, I'd advise going to watch them because the way their offense moves, the way their spacing works, their passing is just awesome as a team. I know Tyler Kolek and Marquette is a really good individual passer, but I think Xavier, as compared to last year, even earlier in the season, they just move the ball so well on offense. And even if they're having a tough shooting night, they find a way to put the ball in the basket, which is awesome. So I think great things are ahead of them. They're going to hit a rough patch at some point. I'm preparing myself for it because it's been fun so far this season to not lose for a long time, but we'll see what happens. But take it a game at a time. They got a big one against DePaul. Hopefully they don't have any funny business. So that's all I have to say.
That's all.
Is there rank 'em?
Well, we have a rank 'em question for today.
Okay.
So I want to know, in your mind, who is the scariest coach between Nick Saban, Tom Izzo, and Bobby Cox?
Bobby Cox. Wow. Saban.
Saban? What's
Yeah.
the ranking?
I'll go Saban, Izzo, Cox.
I love Tom Izzo. I really do. I don't know if it's me just getting used to watching him every night.
That's the face he makes.
To
all the
me,
time.
it's Saban, Bobby Cox, Tom Izzo. No disrespect to Izzo. It's like I'm just used to it now. If I saw Izzo for the first time yelling at his player in the huddle, then it might be like, oh my goodness, Tom Izzo at the top. But like I'm used to it at this point. I think the media skews the relationship that he has with his players because it truly is special. You see all the alums come back every year. For the summer, they run practices with NBA professional players, alums that went to Michigan State, even guys that aren't playing right now. Mateen Cleaves goes out and practices with the guys. But it's a very special relationship that he has with them. One more.
Okay,
Breakfast cereals.
Oh,
Did I ask you this already? Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Honey Nut Cheerios, and Frosted Flakes. I don't think I did.
man.
No, I did.
I'm going to go Honey Nut Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
I know.
Hey, whoa.
I know.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is number one. Zeke agrees. Yeah. Number one. And then I'm going to go Honey Nut Cheerios.
Okay.
And then Frosted Flakes. I think Frosted Flakes, they take 10 minutes and then they're gone. They dissolve. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm mostly for me, I'm just going off based off of what I've had the most of. So I've had Honey Nut Cheerios probably far and above any other cereal.
Yeah.
So I'm just
I
gonna go with that.
I like Honey Nut Cheerios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to episode number 17 of the Quick Question Podcast. It was great getting to hang out with you. Thank you guys for listening. We have social media channels. They will be linked in the description of this episode. If you guys want to follow us on that, we are working to figure out how to do like social media clips, do all those kinds of fancy things. It's a work in progress. We're figuring it out. But thank you again to Zeke for being with us on the ones and twos, producing this show.
Woo!
From all of us here at the Quick Question Podcast, my name is Gabe Ryan.
I'm Matt Shafty.
And we will see you guys next week.